You are listening to Productivity Straight Talk with your host, Amber De La Garza. Amber is a sought-after productivity coach, trainer, speaker, and writer who gives entrepreneurs the straight talk on personal productivity. No BS, fluff, or overused jargon. Just actionable strategies to get results and succeed in business. And here is your host, Amber De La Garza, the Productivity Specialist.
Welcome, and thank you for listening to Productivity Straight Talk. Today is episode 180, Creating Win-Win Sales and Collaborations, an entrepreneurial case study with LuAnn Nigara. If you're a business owner who wants to improve your time management and elevate your productivity so you can maximize profits, reduce stress, and make time for what matters most, then you're in the right place, and I'm so glad you've joined me. All right, you are in for a treat. You get to meet my dear friend and our guest, LuAnn Nigara. Now, some of you probably have already met her because maybe you found me from her podcast, A Well-Designed Business, or perhaps you heard one of LuAnn's other episodes on Productivity Straight Talk because she is a guest, the only guest that has been such a repeat guest. But today I have her on here for a few amazing reasons. One, she is the mastermind and master collaborator behind our upcoming book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts, Volume 2. And she has a lot to share about the power, the win-win of sales and collaborating, and how to really cultivate relationships that serve them and serve you. I have been so fascinated at the way that she has been able to leverage collaborations, and I got to experience it firsthand. And so I wanted to pull back the curtains and ask some questions about how we can throw in a bit more collaboration and win-win sales into our own businesses as a strategy that gets results. Now, while we're talking about LuAnn Nigara being the mastermind and master collaborator, I hear she's quite a host as well. So if you're an interior designer, I would love for you to join us for our launch party going down this week, December 10th at 6:30 Eastern Standard. To learn more and to sign up, head on over to luannigara.com/launch. And I hear there's going to be some amazing giveaways and some behind the scenes being shared at this launch party. So if you're a little bit interested and want to have a lot of fun, I think you should join us. Again, you can head on over to luannigara.com/launch. Let's get to know LuAnn. LuAnn began her career more than 30 years ago as the co-owner of Window Works, an award-winning window treatments and awning retailer in Livingston, New Jersey. She's also host of the top-rated interior design podcast, A Well-Designed Business. Her podcast was recently named in Architectural Digest as one of the top 10 podcasts listened to by designers. LuAnn is the sought-after speaker and author of several books, including her first book, The Making of a Well-Designed Business, her second book, A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts, as well as her upcoming book that I'm also a co-author of, in A Well-Designed Business, The Power Talk Friday Experts, Volume 2, coming out this February. And now, let's meet our guest and get to the straight talk. LuAnn, welcome to Productivity Straight Talk. How are you today?
Amber, I am fantastic, and I'm so happy to be here on your show again. I feel so privileged.
I know. Okay, so I had just told you, you're the guest that has been on the most amount of times on Productivity Straight Talk, and well, that's an honor for me. So thank you so much.
The honor is mine. Are you kidding me? I'm psyched. That's so cool. It really is. It's very sweet, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, and we've had a lot of different things to talk about, so we'll make sure that we link out to all the different episodes that you have been on. But today we're talking because we are right on the edge of a book launch with you, right? And so I wanted to bring you on and really talk about, well, you invited me to be a co-author and collaborator in your upcoming book, We're going to hear more about that and how they can get it. But I thought it would be incredibly fascinating to share with our audience how you've built your business based on your unique strengths as a person and thus the business owner. Because as I shared with you off mic or off recording was, it really amazes me about how you are such an example of someone that's created a business really off of all of your strengths and how inspiring that is, because you got to love what you do if you're really like showing up in your strength zones, right?
Yeah. And it's fun. It's more fun that way, right?
Yeah. So I did your official bio, but let's just start off with, for those people that don't know you, let's share a little bit about who LuAnn is and share with us your business model. You actually have two, so share both, and then we'll jump into both.
Okay. Well, I think the easier one to tackle is WindowWorks. So WindowWorks is a custom window treatment and awning retailer located in Livingston, New Jersey. That business is, going almost on its fourth decade. And I own that business with my husband, Vince, and our cousin, Bill. And I think on the other episodes, we've talked a little bit about that business, so I won't go so far into it. But I think what's relevant for the conversation today is that business, as I discussed, I think in the first episode on your show, how systemized it is. And by really paying attention to actively having the systems for the business, always addressing the systems for the business in the sense of refining them, expanding them as technology has created need to have different sorts of systems stacked on others. What's happened because of that foundation, I'm in a position to branch out and build another business because we've got it running like a ship. And that doesn't mean it doesn't need me. You coach me, that it drags me back in. But there was a point where I was responsible for $1 million of sales a year for that business. I looked at my year to date for 2020. I think I'm under $1,000. And so
that's awesome.
Yes. And so
awesome. It is awesome, but it's not awesome. I'm sure someone else is making that money for you.
No, and we're actually at the end of September, October, as we're recording, we are ahead of year-to-date 2019, and we are on track to hit our 2020 goal. And so as a business owner, if you're listening and you're thinking, what's so great about that? What that is I've duplicated myself in my original business. And that enables me, whether my dreams or goals are to open a new business like I have, or if I just wanted to be at this point approaching almost 60 years old, to be able to step back. Like if I didn't have the podcast, I'd be cruising. I'd be saying, okay, let's take a weekend off every 2 weeks and let's go to Florida and visit our friends and let's do this. So I think it's what your goals are, but the idea is to pay attention all the years of building your business, to document your systems, understand how you want your business run, always teach the people that work for you to do it your way. We call it the WindowWorks way. This is the way we do it, so that it can start to sort of hum. And then, as I alluded to, with COVID, for different reasons, I've had to come back to that business and spend about 20 hours a week in that business over the last several months. But it's not because I'm there and it needs me to sell. It needs the higher level management now because of the challenges that COVID has had. But my salespeople and my installers and everybody, they're doing their thing. I'm stepping in and working with my husband and our cousin to manage again. It required a different level of management. So that's the WindowWorks model.
And while you take a breath, let's just congratulate you on still hitting your 2020 numbers, because that is no small feat right now in this market. So congratulations. Mm-hmm. And I just love your commitment to this is a time and a season that WindowWorks needs you. You're doing what you needed to do. And now you guys still get to hit your goals.
Yes. Well, it's not a choice. I don't think it's a choice to say, oh, it needs me. Should I or shouldn't I? Inherent in having that big, strong team that we've trained and we've taught the WindowWorks way is not leaving them in the time of crisis to flail and figure this out. And so it is my responsibility to come back and, step in when the business needs me. And to us being so busy and hitting our goals, there's been a lot in the pandemic and a lot of industries that suffered, but the home remodeling industry is booming. So I can't take the credit for that, and we don't think about taking the credit for that, but it still needs to be managed. The growth is unmanageable, quite frankly. Anyway, so that's that business model. And then, of course, we have the podcast. And this has been for 4.5 years now. And it's just started as me taking 2 days a week out of WindowWorks to sit on the third floor of my townhouse and record interviews, and then all day Saturday and Sunday edit them and write the show notes and, get the things done and invite other guests. And it's a mind of its own right now, this platform and this podcast.
But it really is a platform. So you initially started this podcast. So let's give us a little history of you're in WindowWorks, you have this idea. What was the baby idea of the podcast? Because it's not a baby anymore. We're going to get into where it's at today, but what was that initial idea, and what did it look like in the early years?
Well, it's funny because the story is a long and winding story, and we're going to have it. I'm having my 600th episode. Well, I've had my 600th episode by the time this airs, and I go through the whole long, windy story. And I think that probably you have a lot more things you'd like to get out of this interview. And I would just say it to this because you have an audience of focused business owners that want to create revenue for their businesses. And the podcast, in a nutshell, was 2 objectives. One, I wanted something else personally. I wanted something else that did enable me to speak in front of people and did enable me to write books and to do these types of things. And I also wanted something that I could start building in my mid-50s. My husband was in his late 60s, that by the time he was in his mid-70s and I was in my 60s, didn't require us to knock on a door and show you a sample to sell you something in order to pay our bills. And so it's been this 2-lane next to each other, continuing to support and build our team out to overtake those sales that him and I were responsible for, and then building this along the side with the idea that if I could build this platform, it's a business I could run from anywhere. So if we wanted to be in Florida with our friends, or we wanted to be at our beach house or something like that. But the crux of it was, as much as I thought that the podcast had the possibility to be that business, there was a very clear decision that if I were to take at the beginning 2 days a week out of WindowWorks, because then I was responsible for $1 million in sales, if I was going to pull back, then whatever I was doing should support WindowWorks. And what I mean by that is, when it ultimately became, are we going to do this? Honestly, are we going to do this? Are we going to launch a podcast? And my husband didn't know what a podcast was. When I came to him with my business plan, he's like, okay, you always say this word, what is it? And I'm like, well, it's kind of like a radio show that's not on the radio, right? And I'm like, it's like Netflix for radio. You can watch it whenever, you listen whenever you want, stop, start it, do whatever you want, right? And so he understood that concept, but he said, when I had the business plan and the amount of money that I expected us to invest in it for the first 18 months and the trajectory that I expected the revenue to come back in, and it was a risk. And he said to me, I don't get it. And I said, well, here's the thing. If it doesn't do any of the things that I dream for it, if it doesn't create a speaking career, if it doesn't create the books, if it doesn't create the coaching and the masterminds and the live events, if it doesn't do any of that, the very least it should do is drive business to WindowWorks, because I am podcasting to our target client. And if nothing else, they should find out about WindowWorks and the phone should ring to create business for WindowWorks. And that is an understatement, what it has created in business for WindowWorks. So now it's to the point that now WindowWorks, my other business, pays me an advertising check every month for the podcast.
Oh my gosh. That's amazing. I didn't know that, but talk about full circle. Mm-hmm. I bet you're selling still, just in a different way.
Well, this is the thing. The sales that are attributed, that the lead source is the podcast, is over $1 million a year. Yeah.
Okay. That's amazing. So when you did that business plan at that time, did you say, I'm doing this by raising other people up with me. Like, you are incredibly successful. And what I really want to talk to you about is like, why did you choose to do it with so many other people and bring them alongside you? That has been my experience with you. So was that in the initial business plan?
Yes, always, right? Because this is my nature. My nature is, it's funny because in the introduction of the book, I sort of, explain this a little bit. I've always been an athlete. I've always been on sports teams. And I like that feeling of we're all in this together. It's like, okay, everybody put their hand in, break. You know what I mean? Like, I just love the camaraderie of creating something that if you didn't do what you did, I couldn't do what I did. Like, I played field hockey, right? And so I was the center halfback. And the center halfback is the only position on the field hockey team that plays offense and defense. And so, but the center halfback doesn't typically score. It's not the center halfback's job to score. The center halfback's job is to get that ball to the forwards, okay? But to be right behind the forwards, still on offense in case it just comes back. It's like, let me get it back over to you. And the same time, the center halfback comes all the way back to the goalie to support the goalie as well. And it's the only position that does that, unless you play, swing setup. Well, then we go into the theory of field hockey, but then you have two of them that do that. But that was my role. And I love the idea that when you do, like when my forwards did their genius, then I just hit the ball to them and they scored. And when my goalie did her genius, she blocked it and got it to me and I got it out. It's just more fun with other people, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And it has been fun doing this collaboration and being a co-author. I remember when you asked me, I was blown away. I was like, to be honest, I was like, I don't get it. Like, why? like questioning, like I didn't understand. And I just said, you know what? I just want to understand and I want to hear it. And it's been the most incredible experience that's been almost 18 months since we first talked about it. Like, it's been this long journey and we're not even as of the recording, close to the finish line of what this is going to be created. And I find it so fascinating because over this time, I have, really gotten to know you both personally and then professionally and as a client. And what I find so admirable about you is that you are seriously in it for the success of all people. Like, this is not a one-woman show. And yet you in your own right and in your own business are incredibly successful. And I find that really inspiring. So this is what you enjoy. You just shared your background in, your sports and things like that. And so when you decided to design your podcast and your business as it is now, did you know how you wanted to create that team? Or has it been as opportunities presented themselves? Or is it how you see like the world and create the opportunities? I'm just so fascinated because a listener may be feeling incredibly lonely right now running a business. And there are lonely days and there's hard days where you're podcasting and editing and writing show notes. No doubt. We both understand that. But I would say you're less lonely than most business owners because of all the friends that you have, gathered over the time you've been in business doing this. So what does that look like for you when you decided that that's what you wanted to do?
Well, I just think that, first of all, yes, the plan was always there to niche all the way down into the design industry in order to create awareness, right? Yeah. What I love is to talk about business. The truth is, I say it all the time, you could take the word interior design out of every single sentence I say and substitute bricklayer, substitute attorney, substitute real estate. It doesn't matter. Business is business. There are some nuances to interior design that is particularly challenging and the business model is crazy, but the premises of how to run a successful business are the same. And so, but did the world really need the 751,001 business podcast? You know what I mean? It was like nobody was going to find it. Nobody was going to hear it. So that's where I leaned on the background that I had in WindowWorks to go into the industry of design and speak to them. Okay. But the thing is, it's always been about what is the collaboration that benefits both people involved. Like I have studied sales since I'm 10 years old, reading all of the books since I'm 10 years old. And at the heart of the most successful sale and salesperson is creating the win-win. That is how you make sales. It is not convincing somebody that they need something. It's not convincing them with your words. Now, don't get me wrong. If you don't need a bridge, then don't come around me and say, maybe I want a bridge, because you're going to get a bridge, okay? But just because I have a talent in doing that, the true joy and the true goal of, in my opinion, a sales professional is finding that win-win, that collaboration. And so that's all I did with the podcast.
Right.
I kept saying, well, what is it that I have that would benefit somebody else? And what do they have that could help me do what I do over here? And it was constantly making those, like literally thinking. It's no different than a realtor giving some serious thought to, well, what are the other businesses and trades in my community that need what I do, and what can I give them? It's just consciously, actively thinking about it, and then picking up the phone and asking for it. And saying, yes, I'd love to offer this to you. Do you think that this would make your business, your life, your whatever easier? And sometimes you have to say to somebody, most people will say, oh, that's terrific. What can I do for you? But, you have to be willing to say, and I'd love to do that for you. And if they don't offer, you can say, and once I've done that for you a couple of times, maybe we could think about how maybe you could help me. That'd be great. How about that? Like whatever it is. But the idea is if you give, then usually people will start to figure out how they can give back, because they want you to keep giving. Let's be serious.
Right. Okay.
It's not rocket science, right?
That's right. It's just about caring about people, coming from a great place. When you were saying win-win, we're here talking to each other and it's a win-win. But what you also do incredibly well is it's a win-win-win. Your audience, the people you serve, is always in the middle. And when you collaborate, whether it's bringing someone on as a guest onto the podcast, or you are referring someone that you've seen what their business can do to help your audience, or you ask somebody to write a book with you, it is all in the goal of serving your audience at the highest level. And
that's a non-negotiable,
right?
Because if it only serves me, then the podcast doesn't grow. And I can't do the other things that I want to do. It's a non-negotiable that you are doing something for the designer, the website developer, whoever is listening to my podcast. That is the number one thing. I call them, I get dumb PR, dumbass PR, things. Because when you do that pitch that doesn't tell you, the number of people that will approach an email and say, here is my client, or here is my boss, or here am I, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this, and I'm this. And we think, we're amazing. And I'm like, great, but where's your amazingness for my listener, right? It's like, that is a non-negotiable. They have to, that's the first criteria. Once you pass that gate, then it's like, okay, then it's how well did you serve my audience? How much did my audience like what you did? And if I get that feedback that, oh my God, LuAnn, Amber was amazing. And I was like, oh yes, I thought she was and you thought she was. Okay, let's have some more of Amber. You like Amber? I liked her too, right? I mean, it's like giving somebody chocolate cake and they keep saying, give me more. And you're like, all right, I've got the cookies, the chocolate. I'm baking as fast as I can.
That's right. So part of this collaboration and seeing how to use your strengths, which is you love people, you like bringing people together in the rise of success for all, is this idea that in our businesses, when we do lean into collaboration, would you agree that it makes things easier in business? Meaning opportunities come up that when you need something, you can think of someone that can either help you or know someone that can help you. And it kind of greases the friction that a lot of business owners feel when they're doing it by themselves. Yeah.
110%. 110%. Because you know what? If you know 3 people, then there's 3 people out there that maybe can help you when you're in a jam. But if you know 23 people, then there's 23 people. And those 23 people know 3 people. And now all of a sudden, I don't know how many people that is, but that's a lot of people, right? And so, it just grows. And what happens is for me, I'm always actively thinking about, if somebody says to me, I need this, I don't know how to do it, can I have help with this? If I don't know how to do it and I'm not the girl, I never just say no. I'm always like, I'm that's not my skill set. I don't have this ability, or I don't have that service, but XYZ, XYZ, XYZ does. And if I'm not sure, mostly now after 600 interviews, I'm like, okay, I could refer you to this one or that one. But even if, like, I had an opportunity that you and I talked about a couple of weeks ago, and there is one designer who is looking for a business coach, and I know I'm not the one for her, and because of what she needs. And I'm like, okay, I call you. Is this sound like your client? I called Eileen. Is this sound like your client? Because I'm going to go and try and find the person for that designer. And then what happens? That designer is happy, and that's good. I've done my give back to my listener. But then who else gets something? The coach that I ultimately referred her to. And so then it's like, oh, thanks, Lou. And I'm like, no problem. We're all happy. It's a win-win-win.
It is. I was thinking about it, and it is listener by listener when you build a podcast. And I mean, your podcast is quite large. But I remember being at a conference a year ago. In fact, the memory just came up on my Facebook today. And I remember being on a break, and we were right outside. It was in San Diego. And I started talking to this lady, and she says that she's new in interior design. And I was like, oh, have you listened to A Well-Designed Business? She's like, what is that? And I was like, let me tell you all about it. Pull out your phone. And so, of course, like, that's one listener. And I have done that multiple times of anyone that is in the industry. It's like I have to check their temperature. I'm like, well, do you listen to A Well-Designed Business? and if the answer is like, no, then I share them how to find you. And when I ask and it's a yes, it's never like, yeah. It's like, yes, I love that podcast, right? Now, I'm just one person because you've been incredibly, you've been such an incredible blessing in my life. And we connected because I was just a guest. Part of my marketing and visibility plan is to be a guest on other people's podcasts. And once upon a time, I don't even know how long that was by now, over 2 years ago, I was a guest. And like you said, your audience gave you some feedback and we stayed in touch. And one thing led to another. And I just want our listeners to hear is like, I didn't go into that with any other expectation other than to serve her audience at the highest level.
Exactly.
Like, I brought my A game to give and love and pour into her audience, and then walked away. Like, I don't think I would have heard from you. And there's a lot of people that have interviewed me I've never heard from. And so the lesson here is a couple of things that my goal was for today's podcast was, one is, how can you integrate some more of what comes natural to you and like put that superpower on steroids? And that's what you've done with great success. So you've always enjoyed people and you enjoy connecting people, and that has been really beneficial for your business. But even if it's not your superpower, there is such power in purposely collaborating with other people. Yeah. And that there's opportunities around us. If, like you said with LuAnn, you just look at it and ask yourself, how can this be a win-win-win? So, all right. So let's jump into the ways in which you have collaborated. So if people are listening, they are, and they're like, they keep throwing around this word collaboration. We've given a few examples, but in your business, I'm just going to share some that I know and you can fill in the blanks. So you collaborate twice a week with guests on your podcast, meaning you're inviting people on or there's been introductions made. And so that's definitely a collaboration where you're sharing your platform with another expert. You have written a few books. You want to share those with us?
Yep. So the first book is The Making of a Well-Designed Business. That's a book that I wrote by myself. And that book is basically the look back at the 30 plus years of the success of WindowWorks. And it's basically a combination of the things that we did that we intended to do because we thought and knew that they were good business practices and how they benefited us. And then the things that were like, wow, didn't see that coming, screwed that up. And if I tell you all about it, maybe you could avoid that. You know
That's awesome.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, it's not a business book for the New York Times bestseller list. It's not a business book with charts and graphs. And I don't reference one thing that I've got to put a footnote in that says I've gotten this, statistic from XYZ. It is literally, if I sat down with you and I told you all of the important markers that I know from our personal experience that created the success of our 35 plus year company. Okay. And so, so
that's amazing.
And that's what it is. And it's like me talking to you. It's not this formal thing. And, then the other book is the first volume in the book, the same as our series. So it's the A Well-Designed Business, Power Talk Friday Experts, Volume 1. And now the book that you're in is Volume 2. And this is the result of this collaboration of all of these fantastic people that have come on and shared their experience and their expertise and their superpower with the audience on the podcast. And then to say, because look, at 600 plus episodes at this point, you might know that Amber De La Garza is an amazing productivity specialist. And you might think, what is her core thing that she teaches that just like cuts through all the stuff? Well, let me go to LuAnn's podcast. Oh, she's been on it. Like, can I find the episode first of all? And she's been on it 3 times. And oh my God, they're all talking about this nonsense when she coached LuAnn now. And I didn't want to hear about that. I wanted to know what Amber said, right? So this is just turn around on your bookshelf, pull it out and read Amber's chapter and get all the goodness right there and cut all through the tape. You know what I'm saying? So, it's a lot of content with the podcast now, and it's hard to, about every month we're like, we have to update our collections. The collections I have on my website, it says podcast and it says collections. And there's 7 or 8 different collections. And about once a month, I'm like, these collections are obsolete. These are not organized. And we're like, oh, we've got to reorganize them. And then I spend about 45 minutes. I'm like, this is a bear. This is a bear. I'm like, never mind. We'll do that next week. And so it became easier to just write darn books.
Well, that says a lot because writing a darn book is not easy. Now from the books, then you also had live events and so then you also invite the authors to live events and then you do smaller events, right? You want to share a little bit about that?
Yes. And so what we do is we have the smaller events are the Power Talk Friday tours. And so in our industry, we have different markets that we go to. So it's like conventions in other industries. So we have High Point Market in North Carolina. We have Las Vegas Market by you. We have Dallas Market. We have Boston Design Center, Chicago Merchandise Mart. And the thing is, these are X amount of times during the year where in High Point, you could have 100,000 interior designers from across the world come for a 1 week period and gather. And there's education and there's events and there's, there is furniture and accessory shopping, which is really the focus of it and what they're supposed to be doing, right? Instead of cocktail parties and dinners and all that. But I knew that there was, from the listener email and conversations that when I was meeting designers across the country, when I would be invited to be a guest speaker at these different markets, or a panel moderator at the different markets, I knew there was a need for the podcast throws so much information at you. It's like throwing the spaghetti at the wall, and the designers are just sometimes looking, going, I don't know which piece to pick up first. I don't know how, seriously. And it's very difficult if you're overwhelmed from a business standpoint to begin with. It's very difficult to really not just chase your tail on the content is coming at you like the speed of light, and every week it's another great idea. And so there was a need for enabling the business owners to be in a setting that was small enough that you could ask the actual question about your business. Because when you go to a bigger conference, and even if there's 30 people in a bigger conference, let alone hundreds. When that one person, the speaker is speaking and the person there, last week I had a customer and you're like, no. There's 100 people here. We don't want to know last week that didn't work for you with your customer, right? But you need that, because how else do you get that? And not everybody is at a point where they are prepared experience-wise or investment-wise for one-on-one coaching.
Right.
And also, too, there's sometimes where you need multidisciplines. And so I started thinking about it. And I'm like, I've got the best experts on the planet on my Rolodex. Like, this is crazy. Let's do this. And so what I do is I will usually bring at least 3 of my experts, and then myself and my husband. And we have had anywhere from 6 interior designers to 15 interior designers. And that is the max. If I have 6 of us, then I will take 18 max. And we do all day from 8 o'clock in the morning until 11, 12 o'clock at night. And it's an outstanding day. We do breakfast together. Then we go into panel discussions where I'm almost like a podcast interview, but we have collected data from the participants on what their pain points are.
Yeah.
So I tell them Amber's coming, and we collect their data, what's bothering them about productivity. So I don't just do a generic discussion with you. I said, look, 5 out of the 6 people here don't understand how to set up time blocking for the year. Let's pull it apart. And we dig into it. And then what happens is we break for lunch. And then after lunch, the 6 experts all sit at a different table. And sometimes there's 1 business owner and some max 3. And they sit at the table with an expert. We talk for 30 minutes. The clock rings. The expert moves. The designers or the business owners stay. And they all get 30 minutes with the expert at the table. And they get an hour follow-up coaching call with each of the 6 of us. And then we're done at 6 o'clock, and we all go back, we get showered, we get dressed in fancy pretty girl clothes and big boy clothes and celebrate. And we have a really amazing private dinner served to us. And so that's the little event. And LuAnn,
did that sound little?
Steroids.
Like, for all the listeners, did that sound little? Can you imagine what's coming next? It sounded like it was a deep dive in a very intimate setting to serve specific challenges. So I love all of that. But again, it's incredibly creative where you created that, right? Like I can't plug that out of another coach or another speaker or another podcaster. So this is how LuAnn thinks. She thinks, how can I serve my audience? Who do I have? How do I make an amazing experience? And that's how you get all these details that LuAnn just shared. So get creative.
Well, and I'm going to tell you too, where it comes from. Obviously, it totally comes from what I told you, the team concept. Like I would just want to, if I'm going to do something all day, I want to do it with everybody and we're all like, yay, right?
Yes.
But it also comes from an absolute, clear, unabashed look in the mirror of what I'm not good at. You know what I'm saying? I'm not good at all of it. I'm not good at productivity. I'm not good at finances. I'm not good. I'm okay at, I have a certain level of skill set with marketing. But when I've interviewed somebody who's an expert on marketing, why would you want to hear it from me when all I have to do is call this person, invite them to be there with you firsthand?
Right.
And so it's just really recognizing that, yes, at 39 years in business, could I coach almost anybody on anything at this point? Of course I could. But could I do it even better? Could I serve you even better if when you really need productivity coaching, I just step aside and let Amber do it as opposed to just repeating to you what Amber's taught me?
You may not see this, but I am able to connect these dots. So your first interview was talking about how each co-partner in a window works has their lane and you don't change lanes. Right. And then you went and created this solo business and you said, I'm so clear about my lane and how I can serve best. And so I'm going to bring along all these other people. You've been doing this for 40, 35 plus years, but in different ways. And as you're speaking, I can't help to just see how similar that is, but how differently it shows up in each business.
Yeah, no, it's true because I think maybe there is a fear when we're younger or newer in business that if we let someone know that we're not good at that, we feel like they'll think we're not good at all of it. And I can't add and subtract to save my life. I cannot do it. I have to put it, I mean, one time I said to my husband, if we had, somebody owed us, I was trying to figure out $100 over 10 months. What would that be? And he just like literally looked at me like he literally said, how can you be so brilliant and so stupid? And I'm like, well, is it 1,000 or is it 10,000? I know it's a one with a lot of zeros. Like I just can't compute it. You know what I'm saying? And I know how to figure it out. I know how to do the times on a piece of paper and I know how to do it on a calculator. But when I wanted it at the fingertips, I'm like, I honestly was like, is that 10,000 or 1,000? Like, because I just don't calculate, but I could finish this New York Times crossword puzzle on the Sunday in 2 hours.
Okay, this is going to be one of those nuggets that are going to be a surprise for our listeners. So you got to hear that LuAnn didn't have that she can't do math hold her back from showing up in her superpower. What she did is double down, right? And my limitation is I can't spell to save my life. If you want to know that something came from me and didn't touch anyone on my team, there was a misspelling. If you want to see posts on my personal profile that have not been looked at, they're misspelled. Like I could look at it all day, every day. And, being younger, as you referenced, I had to go through like, what does that mean? Can I really be someone that serves? Can I be seen as an expert? Can I be seen as someone that can lead? And so what I did was stop blogging and start talking on a podcast. Right? So you have to lean into the areas where you excel and ask for help in the areas that you do not excel in. And I have a lot of help in looking at everything that's written from my business.
That's right. And the thing is to just, it's okay. Who expects anyone to be really good at everything? But find the answer, get the help, do whatever. And I think, going back to the field hockey analogy, in 4 years of varsity field hockey, I was going to say, I don't think I had a goal, but I had goals because I was also the person that did the penalty flicks, but I didn't have a goal during the game. Mm-hmm. But did that prevent me from taking as much pride in every win that we had? No. It was my job to get the ball to the person whose job was to score. So if my job is to help you with your finances, then I got to get the person who can help you with your finances because, of course, again, as I said, I have a level of ability with it. I'm not like a complete dumbass here. You know what I mean? It is a long time in business. But when you want something done well and you're going to invest in your business for it, I want you to get the expert. So I just call them up and say, come with me. Let's go help a bunch of people today.
That's right. Now you are the person that I would go to for sales advice, right? Like I know that sales is you. You said earlier in this interview, you've been reading sales books since you were 10. And yet with all of the strategies that you've learned, it boils down to having a service heart. And that is what I hear and see and experience from you. And so some of the listeners have that sales seems very, very scary and overwhelming and they don't know how to do it. And I guess my advice would be start with leading on how to just serve with an open heart, wholeheartedly. And if that means that you are not that go-to person and you can expand by sharing the people that you know, you've served.
Absolutely.
And thus may be sold.
You have to flip it in your head. It's funny because I had one of my chairman of the board clients just last week send me a Voxer. And she works strictly to the trade. But very often a consumer will reach out to her business and say, hey, I would like you, to do work, have you do the work for me. And she goes, I just got another one of these phone calls. She goes, I've always struggled with these calls. She goes, I know I'm not going to do this work. I know I'm going to refer it out. She said, but it just always feels like the whole conversation is about what I can't do for them. And so I stumble over it and I feel bad. And she said, and I just realized, why don't I just call you and ask you what you would do? And so I said to her, just flip it in your head. I'm going to give you the words. And then I gave her the words. I said, but you don't need the words. I know when you hear it differently in your head. What's happening is when you're getting the phone call, you are focusing on, you can't work with this person, you don't want to, it's not your business lane. How do you tell them without them getting upset? I said, focus on, you are going to refer them to the perfect person for them, that they've just called you and they pretend they called a pizza parlor and they got the wrong number. So they got the wrong number. They think they got the right number. And instead of all the things you can't do, you simply say, oh, I appreciate so much that you found me through Instagram or whatever it is. However, that's not my business model, but you're in luck because I have 3 outstanding references to give to you. If you hang on just a second, I'll go get the phone numbers for you. And you're going to love these people. This one is this, and this one is this, and this one is this. Pick any one. They're all going to be great. And I said, you take it from what you can't give her to focus on what you can give her, and you're not going to stumble over it anymore.
Yes, there's so much yes in that. Now, I had a similar conversation with a coaching client yesterday. So this is also a productivity issue. So when someone doesn't want to say no when it's not the ideal work, they say yes, and then it's a time and energy suck for them and the team. But if you don't want to say no because you want to people please and it's not your zone of genius, I would argue not only is it a waste of time, but you're not really serving them the best way they need to be served. So my conversation was very similar, and I gave language around that says, so that's not the area that we specialize in. Can I find someone that specializes in that area for you? So for them, they specialize in total gut renovations, and they were taking clients that were like, oh, this little project over here, or this thing chipped in my bathroom. And now it was bogging down their business with all these little random things when their specialty is total gut renovations.
Right.
Same thing. It was eating her up until I could just say, hey, how are you best serving them? Best serving them is redirecting them and what they really asked for.
That's right. It's like I said, it's like somebody called for pizza, but you make hamburgers. You don't feel bad about that, about giving them your favorite pizza parlor, right? It's just because you kind of do it doesn't mean you do it. And to your point, if you kind of do it, it's not your superpower, but it's somebody else's. So give it to them. Let them be happy that they got the business from you. And when the little guy that does the smaller projects, somebody calls them for a gut reno that's above their pay grade, they're going to remember who's been sending business to them.
Absolutely. I've got to say that this is one of the business strategies that is difficult for younger business, you call them baby designers, but in any industry. Because I also remember when you're first in business, you want to say yes to everything. Like you may not even be really clear about what your zone of genius is or what your niche is. And it can just be so detrimental to the growth of your business. I remember taking clients and saying yes, and then doing the work. And I'm like, what was I thinking? This is taking so much time and I can't even charge them for it because like, this is ridiculous how much time it's taking me. And this was early on in my business. I did the same thing until I found my niche. I found my area, and anything outside of that, I said no to. But the other conversation that's a little difficult is when you transition, when your older clients come to you for the things you no longer do, right? And how do you have those conversations about saying, well, thank you for thinking of me, but I no longer do that. This is what I do. And retraining them for what they think of you for is another kind of graduation level into mature business.
Right. But see, if you always will be the resource for them to who they can call, it softens the blow. And to your original point, it puts them to where they're going to be best served. And you're putting some goodwill and pay it forward to that other new business person that you're referring to. And it's true. In the beginning, we say yes more often than we should. But that also comes from skipping the very first step in creating a business, which is having a true come to Jesus with yourself on your mission, and vision for your company. So many business owners skip that step, and you cannot skip it. You have to get clear. What am I going to do? Who am I going to do it for? How am I going to do it? What is my mission? Why am I having this business? And what is my vision? Where do I want this business to go? Because what happens is in the example of the firm that does mostly gut renovations, if it's so clear that our mission is to do gut renovations and our vision is to do gut renovations and eventual, say, design builds from scratch, well, what part of that is fixing the chip tile in somebody's bathroom? There's no part of that.
Right.
It's just, it becomes, oh, that's not part of our thing. Okay, bye, see ya. Let me give you a name. But we often skip that step as business owners, and we don't have that clarity. And here's the thing. You can change and adjust your vision as you go on. You can change and adjust your mission as you go on. But you got to do it. You got to do it. You got to do it.
And it's not just about clients. Having a strong vision and mission also enables you to say yes or no to opportunities. Right. So when you invited me as a co-author, trust me, you were filtered through my mission and vision and what I saw going to make sure that LuAnn wasn't flying in as a shiny distraction. And you are not, and you were not, but trust me, I had to really think about it. And I don't take that lightly because I see it so often. Business owners getting derailed left and right because they're following whatever opportunities landed in their lap and not really saying, okay, what's my North Star? Is this going to help me propel me towards, I call it your vision of success, your own personal vision of success. So will it propel you, or is it literally going to take you off course? And now you have to do a lot of makeup work. So yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up for sure.
There was an episode on my show. The young woman's name is Laurel Smith. And if you are listening and you're struggling with, finding your mission, vision, and establishing it, and you're not sure if it's worth it to do the work to figure it out, you should look that episode up on my show, because it was funny, because she even said to me, I had read your book, and the first chapter is establish your mission and vision and core values, right? And so she was telling the story, and she said, and she had read the book in the fall, and now she was having this second or third setback, and it was the spring. And I said, wait a minute, I thought you said you read the book. She's like, yeah. I'm like, that's the first chapter. She goes, yeah, I just skipped it. I read it, and I thought, I don't need to do that.
And that's true, because in the moment, it feels fluffy. It seems like a soft, what do they call soft skill? It just seems like something you do because people say to do it.
Yeah, let me write a to-do list today, right?
Exactly. Until you're flip-flopping all over the place. You're saying yes to everything. You don't have anything to gauge what's a yes or a no, whether it's a client or an opportunity. And then you listen to this podcast and you hear it's because you don't have a clear mission and vision. You don't know where you're going. So everything seems like a good idea. And the thing is, when you think about the through line of my podcast, that the mission is to help interior designers become more profitable. That's it. That's my number one goal. You do your superpower, put it out into the universe so we all benefit from it, but make money doing it so you can keep doing it, right? And even when I wanted to go out to the outside industry, to people like yourself and to Jamie Lieberman and to Amanda Berlin and the other experts, the conversation is, we're talking to interior designers here. So don't say, reference other people. Don't use examples from other industries. If you need to do some homework and figure it out. But the mission of the podcast is to interior designers. So I can put all the world and all the circle around onto my podcast, but we always bring it back home to them. And so that's no different than somebody saying, you know what? I do gut renos, period. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much. Well, we went all over the place in today's interview, which I think is amazing. It's going to be a nice surprise for our listeners, but definitely full of great nuggets and ahas. So thank you so much for being here, LuAnn. And can you share with everyone how to find you and your podcast that we've been speaking so much about?
Right. So the podcast is called A Well-Designed Business. LuAnnNigara.com is the website. Almost everything can be found through there. You can can learn about the new book that we have coming out, and you can get on a list to know when that is available at LuAnnNigara.com/book. So I would say, but Instagram, LuAnn Nigara. We're very busy over on Instagram and also on Facebook as well, but Instagram's where we really do a lot of chattering.
Yeah, that's where all the fun happens, is on Instagram.
The party's there.
That's right. That's right. Thank you, LuAnn.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Amber.
I have loved having you listen to this episode of Productivity Straight Talk. And I sure hope you found my conversation with LuAnn a bit insightful and inspiring. No change, no change. Without taking action, nothing will change for you or your business. So take action today. Based on my conversation with LuAnn, where can you invest in the power of a win-win relationship? Where can you create or take advantage of opportunity for a collaboration that really excels your growth, your reach, and ultimately the people you serve in your business? I have found that these types of strategies, first and foremost, start with taking the action of thinking. That's right. As a business owner, thinking is one of the most cherished and limited resources we have, is the time to really think. So perhaps today's Take Action challenge is just scheduling some time to ask yourself, how can you collaborate more going into 2021? How can you create more relationships that are win-win in 2021? By just asking that question, sitting with it, and giving it some thought, I bet the opportunity to really leverage the strategy is closer and easier than you think. As a reminder, if you're an interior designer, I would love for you to join me for our launch book party. You can do that by going to LuAnnNigara.com/launch. Again, join us for our book launch party on December 10th. LuAnnNigara.com/launch. So that's my straight talk for today. Until next time, have a productive week.